Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. Wanted to get at least one more black pill commentary in, as the hour of the apocalypse approaches. What is it, 10 days now? 9 days? So, yeah, who knows what things are going to be like after that. There may be more between now and then, but there'll certainly be at least one Politicope. There may be more black pill doses between now and then. Hopefully there will be more after that. The reason that I wanted to make this one at this time, I knew I'd wanted to make it. The reason I wanted to make it at this time, though, is because if any of you saw my last Politicope, I mentioned that I had wanted to do two looks maxing / self-improvement videos, one based on me as an example, and one based on this TV show I saw when I was younger, this MTV show called Made, where they took this, today he would probably be called an incel, and he wanted to be made into a ladies' man. Yes, it was every bit as cringe as you'd expect. My point was not so much to critique him or the show, however, as it was to say like what I would have done differently than what his coach tried to do. But I feel like if I was for me to make either of those videos, since they deal with both looks maxing and self-improvement in general, that I would need to make this video too, where I discuss, some things I've been thinking about, including the problems that are inherent to looks maxing and any kind of self-improvement. So I want, and the self-improvement and looks maxing can be considered either blue pill or red pill concepts. They're really a big part of both. It's the black pill which would really discourage it, and I'm not sure I want to go that far, but I do want to give some perspective on it, and really some perspective on why I think it's counterproductive. I think black pill orthodoxy would just say, well, self-improvement just doesn't work, and it's one of those things that there may be something to that, but I think it's a big time oversimplification. But yeah, in the past, in videos I made in the past, I have said, one problem I've expressed repeatedly with any type of self-improvement is that it's a road to narcissism, and that, with my own religious beliefs, my worldview is that you, me, everybody who exists, exist for two purposes, and those are you were created for two purposes. One is to serve your fellow humans and fellow creatures, and the other is to serve your creator. Anything else is incidental and irrelevant. That's because it's just literally not what you were made for. You were only made to do those things, so there's no need for you to even worry about anything else. This is a worldview that I still stand behind. However, I feel like there's a difference between recognizing this reality in the abstract and actually really internalizing it and have it affect how you live your life. And if I'm being completely honest, it's not really how I live my life. I am not doing any of my actions in my day-to-day life thinking about serving my creator or my fellow humans. It's not something I really think about. I'm more thinking about the same stuff everybody else is, which is often myself. In some, around the way. I work, to make money for myself. Everything is about, things like, I still do, I don't, spend a lot of time on my hair, but you guys see me playing with my hair on my videos. I'm not doing it because I want to look better to give glory to God or anything. I'm doing it for me. And I'm not trying to say I'm the most vain person in the world, but I'm saying, I do still have this kind of, this, I mean, maybe it is a kind of narcissism. I don't know. Even if I wouldn't think of myself that way. So even somebody like me who does believe it and is older than most of you guys are younger, and a lot of you probably don't believe in God. So the so for me to like just get on here and preach and just say that stuff, like, yeah, that may all be true and you may even agree with it, but does it really help you? And it's also not the way that I want to come at it. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's all true, but I'm actually here to give a new perspective, which is to say that actually this self-improvement thing it's like, yeah, we can have a moral debate about like whether it's wrong, it's not what you were meant for, but I'm saying it's actually going to be counterproductive towards getting to where you want to go. That's really what I want to talk about here. And I can talk about, I can really use my own experience to illustrate this. So we'll start at the top. Something that I've noticed, and it's something that I've kind of always been aware of, but I've only been really able to put it together recently, is that when we talk about self-confidence, self-esteem, and insecurity, people will frequently lump all these things together, and understandably so. However, that they're not the same thing. You can be insecure and have a high self-esteem and low self-confidence. You can have high self-confidence and have a low self-esteem. They're related, but they're not the same. And this is often like what you'll see is people saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, he acts like he's hot shit, but he actually hates himself." And it's like, yeah, that may be true. That the person who acts like he's hot shit may have some. In fact, it's generally probably the case. I wouldn't say they hate themselves, but that person does have insecurity. That's probably true. But we should not take the fact that they have insecurity to mean that they have low self-confidence. They're very different. Again, I want to go back to my experience with sales, where you really notice a lot of this stuff. There's when you're prospecting, or not even prospecting, anytime you're going to deal in sales, you're going to deal with all types of people. Some are going to be very aggressive and very hostile. The aggressive and hostile people may or may not feel badly about themselves. That's irrelevant. But they are not using this hostility and these people do tend to be extremely fragile. That's true. But that fragility should not be confused with low self-confidence, or make you think that they're being aggressive to cover up that they're scared or something. They're not scared. They're being aggressive because, I don't know, they're nasty people, but they're not and yes, they may have low self-confidence. They often do. Yes, they may be fragile, so to speak. But they're not and often somewhat cowardly even. But they don't have low self-confidence, which is, and it really is an important distinction. So I hope that I'm able to illustrate this well enough. Or hope that I'm able to find, I can't even think of an example to illustrate it other than just kind of say it, and I guess you would know it if you saw it in sales. But so the thing is, I think that often in self-improvement, any type of self-improvement, I'm not going to go into the specifics of different ways you can self-improve, but self-improvement is often meant to address the self-esteem aspect, with the idea that feel better about yourself and you will make yourself more self-confident. And in my experience, that's not true at all. And that in my experience, any self-improvement, for lack of a better word, to address the self-esteem, and we can just use something like, let's say you were doing some kind of looks maxing, gym maxing maybe. So let's say you were gym maxing, because I'll use myself as an example, shitty frame. In fact, I do want to use that as an example in this video. You're gym maxing. That's going to, so your muscles get bigger, and you look better. So you may, but at the same, that's not going to make you more confident or less insecure. And in my experience, it's actually been the exact opposite. And that's probably what really inspired me to make this video now more than anything else. I had mentioned in a previous video that I had been lifting weights in some form or another since I was 12, maybe, I don't know, 12 or 13, I can't remember. I think 12. 37 now, so 25 years. Now, I don't want to say that I've been lifting for all of those 25 years. There's been, months at a time where I have not. But most of the time I've been doing at least some kind of weight training, with varying results. So sometimes, most of the time, not very good results, sometimes a little bit. I made a little bit more progress in, my 20s and early 30s. But relatively recently, the last month, 2 months, I don't know, I've just been too tired, like physically, like I'm having trouble sleeping and stuff, just too much fatigue. And, because of that lack of energy, I've just been like, you know what, I'm not going to bother with lifting again until, and I wasn't even doing that much. I was really just doing, I was really just playing around, but I was still at least doing something. But I just said, you know what, I'm not even going to do anything on the weightlifting front until I've had a chance to do something about this fatigue and this inability to hold really any type of reasonable sleep schedule. Because I'd do a few days and then I would just be too tired to do it anymore, and it's just like, why keep going up? Why keep doing this to myself, this roller coaster, if I know I'm not going to be able to sustain it long term? And that was really the only reason that I stopped. But it's having not doing it, having not been lifting in a while, I think over a month now, the thing is probably my greatest insecurity is my frame. I know, again, I know to those of you who've seen my other videos, this is repetitive. I know how much I spurg about my height. My height really doesn't bother me that much. It's my frame bothers me a lot. And, it seems like lifting seems to actually amplify that insecurity. And, ever since I've stopped lifting, and it was kind of gradual at first, but I've noticed that, I care about it less and less. And not only do I care about it less, but I find myself less physically intimidated, because I'm always getting frame mogged. I can't step outside my door without getting frame mogged to oblivion. And but and I was in the because for me the worst place that I get frame mogged is in the supermarket. For some, I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's because that's when I see the most people in one place. But that's not. But it was the last time I was in the supermarket, and it would have been it might have even been 2 weeks ago. And I was there getting frame mogged, and I was like, well, it's not bothering me as much as it normally does. It's kind of it's and I felt less insecure about it and less physically intimidated. I was able to just kind of be yeah, I'm getting frame mogged, but I don't really give a shit. And I don't want to say that it didn't bother me at all. It's always going to bother me at least a little bit. Well, I mean, probably based on, unless I do some serious inner work, which I have no real interest in. So, I think it's that, it's weird. It's the exact opposite of what they would tell you, right? Either the blue pillars or the red pillars would tell you. They would say oh, you're insecure about your, your physical size. So gym max, gym max, bro. And then you'll feel better about it. And that just hasn't been my experience. So I think what happens is the more, I'm not a Buddhist, but you can learn some stuff from Buddhism, and they talk a lot about clinging to things. And I think that the more that you lift weights or something like that, the more you're thinking, the more mentally you're clinging to this idea of getting bigger and stronger, the more you're clinging to your physical size. So you're paradoxically while you're making yourself bigger, at the same time you're increasing your consciousness, your clingingness, or the strength of your clinging to this thing of physical size, which is one of your weak points. So you're not really, in putting this energy and effort into improving something you're insecure about, paradoxically makes you more insecure about that very thing because you're more invested in it. you know, and I want my message here is not to not try to self improve these things. Like I said, and actually, I mean, I'm kind of wavering right now if I ever want to go back to lifting, but I'm thinking that, when and if I do solve, my sleep and energy problems, I probably will go back to lifting weights. Just because I've got that, like that insatiable vanity on that topic. But I'm not even making this video to tell you not to do it. I'm saying that it's not going to be a solution, and it may actually make things worse. I guess I feel like, when I'm lifting, there's much more tension about it. Like I'm much, like, without trying, I don't want to repeat myself here, but I'm more conscious about it. I'm more like, man, I'm like kind of always comparing myself to other guys and stuff. Whereas now that I'm not lifting, I'm just kind of, I don't really, I don't have to think about it as much. And then so you might ask, like, well, is there a way to kind of balance the two? I don't think there is. I don't think there is. I don't think there's anything you can do. I think that, and in fact, it's gotten to a point where when I go out and I see guys, who are, not necessarily big guys, whether, they can be big, small, whatever, but how certain guys just have the look that they lift. They're, and they look like over, I don't want to say over muscled, because it's not that they look, bad per se. That would be only something that would happen if you were on steroids or something. Not that they look like unnatural in like the chemical sense, but like their muscles look like muscles that you get in the gym. And, I can't look at those kind of muscles anymore and not think like, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. Whereas, when I was younger, I thought that looked, I thought that it was a really cool look. That was the look that I wanted to go with. And every time I see it, I just see insecurity. Insecure. Now, again, and this goes back to what I was saying, the insecurity and low self-esteem are not the same thing. My guess is that these guys do feel very good about it. They do probably like stare at their muscles in the mirror. And, they do think like, they go out and thinking, I look good, but it's like, there's something like just so fragile about it, and, it just comes off as try hard. And I've noticed it with really anybody, because, in the past I've mentioned before, in like, I think in my chat as a fraud video, that like, I can't really, respect chads anymore. Like they come off to me as, they come off to me as just as try hard and fake as normies do. And one exception I've always mentioned is Jack Nicholson. But it's like, can you imagine Jack Nicholson like lifting weights? Like, no, of course not. So he just looks like this kind of natural alpha. Whereas when I see another guy who I like to use an example is The Rock. And I'm not just saying it because he's like the world's biggest douche, but he just looks so try hard to me. And this is, The Rock's like an alpha guy. He's an alpha guy. Women love him. He's probably sleeping with beautiful groupies all the time. He's a legitimate tough guy. I'm sure he's very courageous. So it's not, I'm not, this isn't a hate fest on The Rock, but it just looks like so fake to me. So fake. And you guys know how hard I've been on Joe Descartes. Like, he just looks like maybe with him it's a little bit more obvious, the whole try hard thing. But to me, as time goes on, like every single, Chad type is starting to look like Joe Descartes to me. It seems like so, again, fragile, fake, not real. It just looks like, yeah. And, so yeah, and I've noticed in the past, guys, I've noticed that a lot of scrawny type guys I've met in the past have been, I wouldn't call them alpha or dominant, but the guys who they were scrawny and they just didn't worry about it and didn't try to lift. Those guys always came off to me as much less insecure than bigger guys, even naturally much bigger guys who did clearly spend a lot of time in the gym, who just, again, as I get older, they just look more and more ridiculous to me. Which isn't even to say that I wouldn't prefer to look like that, but I think that tells you more about the flawed nature of human psychology than anything else. So, you know, I guess, what are we doing for time? It's 20 minutes. Yeah, I mean, hopefully I didn't ramble too badly here, and that I, kind of made the point that I wanted to make. So this is, I think, as I mentioned, I do want to, talk about looks maxing, again, to looks maxing that I would do, or that I would tell somebody else to do if I were coaching them. But I think that at the same time, it's important to be mindful of, the potential pitfalls and what realistically you can, expect out of it. Because, I deleted this video because I feel like the advice just wasn't good enough. But I deleted this video that I made in the past. Some of you may have seen it and remember it, about how to increase self-confidence. And I just didn't stand behind the stuff, that I said in it anymore, because this whole experience with me, where I've stopped lifting and I've seen my self-confidence very noticeably improved, has taught me that the real key to the real key for true self-confidence, not this kind of sort of fake bullshit self-confidence, is which is a very fragile. The real key for true self-confidence is to not give a shit. I've noticed it from watching, my, 2-year-old nephew, 2.5-year-old nephew play. He doesn't care what he looks like. He doesn't care if people are taller or stronger. That stuff wouldn't even make sense to him. He wouldn't process to him. All he cares about is, can he watch watch Stinky and Dirty, and go and play, with his truck things and stuff like that. That's the only thing he cares about. He did everything else just doesn't even register to him. And he has a true confidence, because that comes from just not caring. In his case, not even being aware. I think that's I do think that that's a very different kind of confidence, and it's the only kind of real confidence. So it's and I will go back to using The Rock. Imagine you put the Rock's confidence is completely based on him being better than everybody else. Him, he's bigger and stronger. And sure, there are some guys who are bigger and stronger than him, and when you see him in pics with him, you can see how uncomfortable it makes him. But especially if he's with a guy who's much taller. But when you take that away, when you if you were to put the Rock, I've always said talked about make the Rock 7 inches taller, or 7 inches taller and 100 pounds lighter. And you could do that, or you could just put him with a bunch of guys where the minimum height is 6'8" and they're all built like Rob Gronkowski. The Rock would suddenly develop little man's disease. He would be, if you put him on a planet where everybody else looked like Rob Gronkowski, the Rock's confidence would be completely gone. He'd be overtly insecure. Whereas again, you take somebody like my nephew, you can put him with people of all shapes and sizes. He's not going to give a shit, because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. So that's where real confidence comes from not caring. And in fact, I don't know if he's I'm sure we'll see him again eventually, but G-Man, I think G-Man's actually been a good example of that. You see in his videos, he's got very low self-esteem, but pretty high confidence. You notice, the thing is, he obviously feels horrible about himself. He thinks he's ugly and useless and all that shit. Or maybe he doesn't anymore. I can't keep track with him. And maybe it's kind of a day-to-day thing. But he's a very confident guy. And that confidence comes from him not caring about it. He doesn't care if guys, face mog him or whatever. He only cares about it insofar as it means he can't attract women. But if in and of itself, he doesn't give a shit. That thing is he doesn't care if, some guys are bigger and stronger than him. That means nothing to him. And, so that's why, he always seems despite all the insults he gets, and when he gets insulted in his comments, he doesn't respond because they don't bother. The insults don't bother him. You know, the thing is, it's not him taking the high road. He just doesn't give a shit. So now, generally, I don't think I wouldn't really advise anybody to be like G-Man for the most part. I don't think he would advise you to be like him either. But I do think we can learn from him, and I think he illustrates an example in this particular case. So again, apologize for the rambling. I felt like this was necessary to do the precursor to what as kind of a pre-disclaimer to what I was going to talk about in the future with looks maxing. That's all for now, and I will see you in the next.